Hey, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Paul.
And I'm Patrick.
And today, for this Spooktober episode,
Ooh, yeah.
we're picking our top picks in certain genres of the horror movie movie collection. So we're going to go through them in order. You won't. I'm not going to tell you the list. We'll tell you them one at a time as we go through them, so you can try and guess before we get to them. But yeah, I thought me and Patrick will choose kind of our top picks, and we can also talk about honorable mentions and stuff like that. But we'll try to keep this nice and tight for you. So the
Yeah. So where do
first
you want to start, Paul? Who's first up?
so the first genre is folk horror.
Ooh.
So the reason I've chosen this one, which is specifically, it seems to be on an up and coming kind of trend. A24 is a big advocate of this subgenre of horror. So like it's that kind of item that I really want to talk about because it's we've talked about A24 really helping horror like be on the rise again, or not being on the rise as we said, but kind of more integral to cinema
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So examples of horror, folk horror, are going to be The Witch and Midsummer and stuff like that, kind of thing. My pick is an out of the box one, not an out of the box one. It's A Field in England.
I haven't seen it, but I remember the trailer. Yeah. So okay, but well, that's your pick. I think for folk horror, I think you've mentioned the two big ones that a lot of just general watching public will be aware of, and that's Midsummer
Mhm.
and The Witch.
Yeah,
We have one very dedicated viewer that I want to say hello to who absolutely adores The Witch. So I'm just glad that it's being brought up. And he has since become a huge Robert Eggers fan because of that movie. Um, I think that's a great example of what you were saying, that this is a subgenre of horror on the rise.
yeah,
Like Midsommar to be fair, it came out of nowhere and became a huge, huge hit. I think The Witch, as I try and pronounce it with its VVs, the Witch really did the same thing.
yeah,
And catapulted the director even further into stardom and commonplace. But and this is where I was going to say, I'm going to defer to you on folk horror because you've gone deeper in. So if you're telling me that movie was anywhere near as good as its trailer, then I'm agreeing with your pick straight away because I absolutely love the trailer for that. A
yeah.
Field in England.
Yeah, I feel that it's a surreal kind of like very low budget horror movie kind of thing. So like it's an interesting I wanted to pick it because I guess The Witch and Hereditary and a couple of like The Wicker Man and stuff like that are like well known kind of ones
Yeah.
that are kind of things. So I kind of want to put a little bit of a light onto it,
Yeah.
because it's a very weird uh just movie, but it's a fun. I enjoyed watching it. It was surreal and kind of I enjoyed the low budgetness back to it, kind of thing. So it was a fun one.
Yeah, and folks, even if you haven't seen the movie, go watch the trailer. Just one last thing before we move anywhere away from folk horror. You mentioned Wicker Man, and I
Mhm.
always have to say Wicker Man needs to be mentioned twice because
Yeah,
I grew up with the original Wicker Man, and before the phrase, before the word meme was ever coined, it was memeable in the sense of people go, yeah, Wicker Man. It made a bit of a pop culture splash, but my gosh, was the second Wicker Man, the Nicolas Cage one, the most memeable and maybe one of the things that catapulted folk horror even further out there before anybody did Midsommars or anything. Yeah, when you think about it, actually, we should probably say hats off to the Wicker Man for generationally keeping folk horror that torch lit. Quite
yeah,
literally,
and
that torch lit.
yeah, literally, and which is another honorable mention is obviously the Blair Witch, which Blair blurs the lines between folk and also found footage kind of thing. So
Yeah,
like it's another kind of good one as well. So Patrick,
yeah. I'm
folk
going with
or
your choice. I'm going with your choice. No, no, I'm going with that's why I say I was going to end up picking one of the obvious ones. But now that I know that movie is as good as I thought, it's now on the Halloween movie watch list.
cool. Yeah, it's a very very unusual pick. So Patrick, let's go slasher. slasher killer, serial killer kind of one. So let's start with you.
Oh,
Which one do you want
yeah.
to?
Well, this spans so far because you've got the icons. When it comes to slasher, you've got everything, and so many things fit into slasher. But I'm going to
Yeah,
try and stay with the traditional. So you've got Halloween, you've got your Mike Myers, the Shape slasher, quite literally, knife on knife and pumpkin imagery in the poster, classic poster. Then like you do have to bring up the big names, and I think we mentioned this on a video recently. Freddy Krueger is such a horror icon. I know you've got Terrifier and blah 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 blah.
yeah.
When it comes to slasher, that actually spans a few other genres, but I still think is just a great one. I'm like, yeah, Freddy Krueger. So the original Nightmare on Elm Street. But Paul, and you're gonna hate me for doing this to you. What I'm gonna pick is something that I missed completely on a previous video, and when you mentioned it live when we were recording, I was like, oh my God, I'm actually gonna pick Scream. Because I think Scream brought slasher to the mainstream at a time when the mainstream needed to be reminded these things aren't just a joke. Because slasher films had become a straight to video
Yeah.
joke genre, even after we had so many classics, like we've just mentioned. And I think Scream brought it back to no, you can make a modern slasher movie. And your hints of irony in it here and there, but it is still I think Scream stands the test of time and reinvigorated a genre that was being unfairly pilloried by people.
I agree. Like in that video, like link up here, which was I did say that it seemed to be kind of a restarter to the slasher genre, which I think is very good for it. It also lays out essentially the general rules of essentially a slasher horror, which is really nice and then plays to them. So it's Scream is like a satire slasher movie, which has now continued on into like more slasher history, the like kind of thing. So I do agree, and I think that's very good because, as you said, it's kind of reinvigorates and changes the genre a little bit to kind of like bring new people in. My one is similar to that, which
Oh,
is in a violent nature, which is the horror
ah,
movie, which is from the perspective of the killer. It follows the killer rather than like a group of people, which I feel is an interesting kind of turn of events kind of thing. So like it also has one of the
yeah,
weirdest kills like in modern slasher history, which I will say is also a big kind of thing since you have Terrifier also involved in this. But yeah, it's an interesting like change of position or change of perspective kind of thing, which is very much I think is Scream as well, which is it keeps laying out the rules, and once you see someone break the rules, like you can literally watch Scream with a check mark of the rules that your man puts
yeah,
out, and
yeah.
anyone who breaks them will eventually die. Uh,
And my primary reason for choosing Scream and the reason I think it's so accessible is that all horror movies cross genres. They
mm,
just do. You'll have people describe them as everything. But if you describe slasher Scream as a slasher, people go, "Oh, but it's not gory." Like, yeah, it's not a gory movie. It's not body horror. It's not any of those things. Oh, and it's not even that scary. Like, but it is still a horror movie. It's just not the most intense horror movie. And I think that's its key thing. People will go, "Oh, it's just watered down horror." No, is like a BMX bike not something with two wheels and a frame, the same as a motorcycle is something with two wheels and a frame. It's still two wheels and a frame. Yes, one is more accessible to people than a super bike that goes 1,000 miles an hour or something. Not everything has to be as hardcore to be the best. Sometimes what I would consider some of the best things are the ones that can bring the most people in. And I think in a violent nature, I think that's a great choice because it's doing something fresh and beautifully new and reminding people of the art house nature of horror in some ways that it can be creative always in surprising ways. And I think that's excellent.
yeah, like it's an enjoyable kind of watch. I do recommend it. The music is also fantastic. Um, so let's move on to we're going to move on to
Oh,
psychological one, which is another
go
kind
for
of
it,
like
Paul. This is
interesting
my
one.
favorite type.
So I'm broken between a few. Um,
Okay.
so I really like, and I don't like. I would say it's kind of. Um, I would say weapons. the new movie Weapons
Okay.
is a good choice.
Okay.
Um, but and I know people will argue if Weapons is or isn't a psychological one. Um, but I'm going to go for the Babadook.
Okay. The Babadook.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. The Babadook is a really good psychological movie, which is because it is once again like a lot of horror. It is the monster is an allegory for something else.
Yeah.
And once you figure that out, the movie goes on to another level of kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
this is really intense, kind of like it's really intense, and like knowing the inside story essentially allows you to kind of engage a little bit more and realize like you can watch it as a horror movie, you can watch it as a psychological horror movie, and then you can watch it as like oh, this is like notes from like a therapist kind of like
Yeah.
kind of thing. So like it's an interesting kind of twist.
Hmm. Well, I wanna get the honorable mentions in
Go for it.
because people will shout if we don't. And the example, so Paul sent me the list of genres just before we did the recording, so I could know what was coming up, which was cool. But in each one you gave, the a big generic example that was definitely going to get mentioned. And I think Get Out deserves a mention.
Yes.
And Get Out did that great thing that you just talked about with folk horror, with A24 being a support. I just talked about with Scream being accessible. I think Get Out did a great job. Get Out's a great movie, but it
Hmm.
also did a great job bringing people to the idea of you can watch something scary, almost approach it as a thriller, even though it is, I think, a horror, and a psychological horror at that. It's not my pick though. Paul, I'm not going to go through all of them because, like I say, this is my favorite. This is where I would spend my horror time, if you
Okay.
know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I tried to pick two that are very different,
Okay.
but also unlike the Babadook, which is a great pick. But I ended up kind of going, ooh, I'm not gonna include Silence of the Lambs, so I put it aside. So
Okay.
that's as it is, it could fit, but no. Then I went straight to, oh, it's gotta be Seven. Then I was like,
Ooh.
oh, but what about The Shining? So I ended up looking at the Seven and Shining, and I have the piece of paper that I wrote my notes on in front of me, and the two of those have, like, the extra circles around them where I'm just like, do you consider them both fitting the what you had thought of? Do you think that's their primary genre for you? Because I know it's different for everyone.
The Shining would definitely be primarily psychological
Mm,
because you can. So I know that it has touches of supernatural,
yes, it does.
but the thing is that you can play those off as psychological like
Yeah.
fan or like hallucinations rather than actual take it like as face value kind of like
And what about Seven, though? That's the one that I was wondering if you were going to say, does it fit? Because
psych
it does for me, because I don't know what other kind of. A lot of people would say Seven's not horror.
it's a
That's
it's a,
the other thing.
it's an interesting one because it's a thriller that borders on the horror. I would say that. I
Mm,
would say that it's essentially it is a good choice for psychological horror because like it is very much constantly like you see the breakdown of essentially the detectives as they go through the seven sins. So like
yeah.
it is an interesting kind of psychological movie. So I would say that it does fit horror, and I know that people will be just like, well, it's not that scary or anything like that, and it's just like,
It's
but
scarier than Scream.
well, that's the thing. You also need to consider that your like as a horror fan, your level of like kind of
Yeah.
scare value or something like that might be higher than
Yeah.
normal kind of thing. Because don't forget, Scream was like a huge big thing in the early 2000s, like early 90s,
Yeah.
where like or late 90s, where like young teenagers would watch it and scream. So like Seven would definitely
Exactly.
the first time I watched Seven, I like I was terrified of it.
It's But there's the thing, and here's how I made my choice in the end. I knew I just had to say Seven, but because there's a whole argument to say it's not really a horror, it's more of a psychological thriller, which not all thrillers are horrors, not all horrors are thrillers. That old blah blah blah, which is a whole other episode someday, Paul. I went for The Shining because from a psychological horror point of view, no matter what way you look at it, even just the examination of somebody's descent into madness, like it is for every character that's in it. The good old shinning. The shinning is
You
definitely it's a
want to be
psychological.
sued?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, God, I love The Simpsons too. Yeah, the Shining is kind of one. I know it's such an obvious one, and people are going to give out to me, but I'm the obvious guy when it comes to horror compared to Paul. He's got the deeper knowledge. Wait till
Yeah,
April and we're doing car stuff, and then I'll be going deep on you all. There you
that's
go.
that's it. Yeah, I thought I would start trying to shine some lights on some of my personal favorites that are a little bit more kind of like different. So
Yeah. And
um
I'm glad that I'm here to represent the everyman in this.
which is great because we
Mm.
have now essentially 8 choices for people to pick from, kind of thing. So, Supernatural, the final one, another staple
Mm.
within the thing. Um, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first this
Oh
time?
no, I want you to go first because it's easy for me. I had to pick just between favorites. This is where I threw all my film thought out the window, and I just went, I know what my favorites are.
Okay,
So I want to hear what you're gonna
perfect.
your intelligent answer first, please.
So I was thinking The Conjuring. I was thinking first The Conjuring and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
that kind of really got me going, kind of thing. But I went deeper and deeper into it. But Lake Mungo, I think it is Mungo.
This was mentioned by a commenter from somewhere like 5 years ago on a Halloween. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So it is. It's a. It's an interesting pick, kind of thing. It's not the usual. I will say that it's not. It's one of those kind of nice paranormal kind of ones that it does a lot of kind of really nice tricks of the trade. It's not as jump scary as some of the other ones like
Right.
Paranormal Activity or anything like that. It's more based on kind of like subtle changes and it's really kind of slowly. It's a slow burner kind of thing where it's slowly kind of plays with you a bit, which I would say is a really nice kind of a ghosts paranormal kind of one.
Yeah.
Because I do like the like Conjuring is very good because it does the same thing. It slow burns you forward, but it kind of plays more kind of to modern jump scares as well. So like I wanted to kind of go back a little bit to this one. So yeah, that's my choice. Yeah, I really want to know what people think of this choice, and if they haven't watched it, go watch it and comment down below.
Yeah, and I would love, the because when I said 5 years, I think it might have been our very first Spooktober about 8 years ago that commenter
Probably.
said it. If they're still watching, and I know they dipped in for our horror stuff because I remember them coming out. I wish I could remember the username. Thank you so much. And please get in the comments if you're still with us. I hope you're having a good life out there wherever you are. Paul, my obviously, people have heard me bang on about Salem's Lot, and they've heard me bang on about how much I love the fog, and pretty much watch the fog every Halloween, whether I should or I shouldn't. No, they're not. That's not what it came down to for me. It's like I love Drag Me to Hell. I just love Drag Me to Hell. I think Drag Me to Hell is one of the most like it's a great horror by any metric as far as I'm concerned, and it's just so bloody enjoyable. And there's just so much to it, and it's just fucking great. It's one of those like horror movies where I'm like, it has everything, and like it scares the crap out of me in the kind of right way for horror to do it, but it also kind of gives me energy. When I think of it, I'm like, yeah, watch Drag Me to Hell. Drag Me to Hell is great. Like, look at me now.
Yeah.
Um, but it got nudged out by what I genuinely think is one of the best horror movies ever made, and maybe it's just because I watched it at the right age, but I think Poltergeist. Poltergeist, when it comes to supernatural, stay away from the light, Caroline. This house is clean. Every single thing about that amazing movie that's become such a staple for it was pop culture references for 30 years for me.
Yeah.
I know less so now, but again, let's use The Simpsons as our barometer. They did entire episodes where they aped bits of Poltergeist. I think Poltergeist, much like Scream, is accessible, but gosh, tell me at any age if you've never seen Poltergeist before that you wouldn't get at least one decent fright, be it clown toys, trees, Indian burial grounds, what TVs, monsters. Like it's got everything.
Yeah.
And it's got some of the most subtle horror stuff, chairs stacking themselves on a table.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just great. I still love, I'm not talking about the sequels or any of that stuff. I still love the idea of if Poltergeist is on TV, I would stay home and watch it. It's one of those. It's a Back to the Future for me. I just love it.
No, I like it, definitely. Like I think Poltergeist is one of those kind of classic staples that if you haven't watched it before, you definitely should. Like if you're
Yeah.
if you're deeming towards if you enjoy horror, then like going back to some of the classics, kind of things like Poltergeist, which definitely paved the way to a lot of stuff, is a good
Oh
idea to
yeah.
do it and stuff like that. Like Mungo is a good kind of like, unusual one that you might not see on a lot of lists. So like I thought I'd throw it in there kind of thing as a kind of like, like this is a good one. I watched this and just got freaked out. So like
Well, I'm glad that those are the last two on the list though, because you've given an overlooked one, and I think I'm giving an often forgotten one. And I think that's the great thing, just in general, about all the different horror genres, Paul. And this is where I'm looking forward to the commenters letting us know stuff below. There's so much out there that people who aren't into horror, and it's not their primary genre of movie watching, there is so much there for you.
yeah.
And it's not just old stuff. There's new stuff being made all the time that is, if you hate gore or body horror, there's plenty there for you. If you don't like jump scares, there's plenty there for you. If you do like any of those things, there's plenty there for you, not just in the past, but also coming out probably this month, because I'm sure there'll be another good crop of movies.
That's it. All right, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Which goes, let us know then your choices of folk, slasher, psychological, supernatural. Like, throw in a couple of more genres that you want to. We missed out sci-fi because I think we do that a lot, and also Event Horizon is
Yeah.
going to be my choice. Um,
I think it's mentioned. Yeah.
so like yeah, so like let us know what your top picks are. Let us know what our choices about our choices and stuff. And yeah, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Otherwise, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this Spooktober episode of Hear Us Out. I've been Paul.
And I've been Patrick.
And we've been Hear Us Out.